Welcome back, everybody, and this will be the last part for making the nav bar, and probably the most important part, not just for nav bars, but just in web design in general, and that is the topic of positioning. And I mean, I've been doing web design for over 20 years, and positioning still screws me up to this day. So don't feel bad if it's tricky or if it doesn't work out exactly how you expect. It does take a bit of practice and a little bit of messing around to figure out how positioning works. Um, Positioning has five different values, five different things that you can set your objects to in terms of positioning. And those five properties are static, relative, fixed, absolute, and sticky. And I'm going to explain each one as best as I can. The first one is static. And so all objects, all divs, and every object you put in to HTML by default is going to be set to static. And what static just means is that whatever gets put in is going to get stacked one after another. So if I was to make another div in this, body copy, it's going to just get put below this div. It's just going to go right under it. That's how static works. It's exactly how you would expect things to work. Things just go into place right after one after another. Okay, so that makes sense. Next one is relative. And relative is an interesting one because you place the object exactly where it would go. And the word relative means that it's going to be placed relative to its position that it would normally go in static, which means that it would place down right after, this object. Okay, so it would get placed right under it. But let's say you want to adjust things like margin or padding, or you want to adjust its position, like its top or right position. You can do all that. But when you adjust it, it will not move anything else on the page. Everything else is going to basically stay locked in. And you can adjust its values, but it's not going to allow you to, the other elements on the page are not going to fill in the gap that is left behind if you move it up or down or whatever you do with it. Hopefully that makes sense. I know that one's a little weird. But relative, again, is different from fixed. The next one is fixed. And fixed is a great one. Fixed is what I like to use for nav bars because what fixed does is it tells you you're not locked to the page in any way. You're going to position this element wherever you want it to go, but it's going to stay locked there. Okay, so fixed means that when you scroll the page, I'm going to do this with a nav bar shortly. When it's fixed to the page, it means that it's stuck there. So think of like something on the page that's just stuck. And no matter what you do, whether you scroll up or down or whatever, it just stays where it's supposed to stay. It can be on top of other objects. It could be on top of other elements, other divs, wherever you put it, it's going to stay there. So no matter what, it's going to stick. And that is what we're going to do with the nav bar. The nav bar is actually going to be fixed in the position so that it's always up at the top. The next one is absolute, and absolute is exactly the same as fixed. You can put the block wherever you want on the stage or on the page. And the difference is though that a absolute object can scroll. So you can move up and down and it'll move with the page and it's going to move. And you're going to see the difference between these two right away. The last one is sticky, which I don't use very often, but I'll explain what it does. The sticky position is when you want something on the page to maybe stick for a certain portion of the page, and then maybe once you scroll past a certain part of the page, then it starts to move. So sticky can be useful for things that only become stuck to the page after a certain amount of scrolling or whatever. And again, I don't use that one very often, but I'm going to show you how this stuff works right now. We're going to do that. So one thing you'll notice is that we got this white border at the top. We also have this nav bar which is sitting here, and then we got the hero block that we've put next. And like I said, everything goes in here by default to static. So everything is just stacking up one after another. And one way we can check this or test is if we go to our style sheet and we go to our nav bar. Let's just say the background color of our nav bar, rather than being 100% black, let's make it like somewhat see-through. Let's go maybe like, I always like 70, 75% or so. And let's just save that. And what we're going to see behind that nav bar is just white, because the background of the website is white. And this is telling us that right now behind the nav bar, there's nothing there. The nav bar is, it's its own block. It's static, and it's just sitting there. And then this block doesn't start until after, because it's static as well. So let's say we wanted to take this block and actually move it up to the top left and the top left. I keep repeating myself, but the top left of the page. Okay. And so what we can do is inside of the nav, and you know what? I already had this in here, but the reason it didn't listen to me, the reason it didn't adjust the top to 0 and the left to 0 is because of the static position of the block. So let's do this. Let's change this, and let's go instead. Let's change the position to absolute. Now remember, absolute will let us change it wherever we want. And you notice now what happened is, now that it's set to absolute, this object has, this nav has changed to 0, 0. Okay, it is changed to 0, 0. It's up in the corner, and because it's absolute, all the other elements beneath it basically will fill in the space that it created, or they will flow in the way that they're supposed to, because this is still static, which means it just sat underneath it. It doesn't even know it's there, because absolute is being told to sit at the top in a place it's not supposed to, I guess, by default. However, in a nav bar, this looks great, because now this nav bar is locked in to the top of the page, and now we've actually got the picture underneath, which kind of looks cool. Let's say we changed it to relative. Okay. Now what we're going to see is it looks very similar to static, because we have basically told it, stay in that position, stay where you are, okay, unless we change something. And again, it doesn't respond to the top and left. So again, this is working the way it's supposed to, but you'll see that the shadow shows up, because now the z-index, which we changed earlier, which is the height of this object, now comes into effect, okay, because we are positioning it manually. And that's when you would use the z-indexes. Again, I probably should have showed you that after, but now we can control how far back this is. So watch, if we put 10, okay, that didn't work. Let's try a higher number. Let's go 100. I don't actually know what the maximum is. I'm trying to get the shadow to go behind the other one. I'm not really sure what I have to set that to. Doesn't seem to be responding to that for some reason. But we could also just set the next block in front, but we can maybe do that after. Regardless, position can be tricky. So I'm actually going to change this back to absolute. And I'm going to show you the difference here between absolute and fixed. So with absolute set, you can see that it locks to the top nicely. We're going to fix this in a sec with these buttons falling down. But if I change this box to a smaller box size like this, and I scroll the page, you'll notice that the nav bar moves when I scroll the page. All right. Let's say I want the nav bar to stay locked to the top of the page, because that would be kind of cool. So that's always available. Well, I would just change absolute to fixed. And what's going to happen now, let's do the same thing. Let me just shrink this block down. And now when I scroll, you'll see that that nav bar always stays available at the top of the page, no matter where I am on the page. Okay, so positioning is very, very useful, very powerful. Is going to allow you to do a lot of things with your pages, and it's going to get your elements lined up properly for sure. Okay, next part of this now, what I want to do is I want to actually clean this up to make this look better so that we have buttons that line up here on the page nicely. So let's do that. First of all, let's adjust maybe our margin on the list items. I'll set this to, oh, you know what? Actually, there's an easier way to do this. Why don't we just increase the height of the nav bar until those buttons sit nicely on the bottom? So let's just do that. Let's go into nav, set it to 55. Not quite enough. This is not the best way to do it, by the way, but 57, 59. Oh, we're close. Let's go 60. There it is. Pretty close. Oh, maybe a little more. 62. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, and now we have our buttons sitting nicely on the bottom of that bar. Okay, we could also take our logo and we can move it down a little bit if we want. We can maybe have a margin top of 10, so that shifts that down a little bit. You know, the nice thing is with CSS is you got so much control over where everything is placed on the stage. And once you have these in place, it just makes it so much easier to just create the pages quickly with these classes that you have. We're going to get the other buttons in there. They're not going to do anything just yet, but we are going to go in here and we're going to copy. We're in the HTML side now. We're going to copy our list items. And I'm just going to paste 2 more. Okay, let's do about. And let's do activities as 2 more. Save that, and you'll notice that automatically those guys get added perfectly because again they're part of this this class, this unordered list. Sorry, it's not a class, but they're part of this group, which means they're all going to take on those same attributes. And it's really quick and easy to add more buttons or drop your buttons or whatever. Very, very fast. All right, so that's positioning. Again, that one is a little bit tricky, and you're going to need to experiment on your own site to get that to work right. Again, when you type position into your CSS, all right, let's see for here example, it's going to give you, it's going to give you the different positions, so you can simply just go position. It's going to show you them all. There they are: absolute, fixed, relative, static, and sticky. And we won't worry about these other ones, but I actually recommend you to experiment with it to help you understand how they work, because again, they're very important for positioning things on the page where you want them, like exactly where you want them. And again, very, very important thing to know in order to become a more successful web developer.